right. How's the sound? How's the video? How's everything shaping up, technically speaking? Zombie Boy says, woo, woo back. And I think we got a couple people in the room and not too much. Yeah. I'm a little bit scattered this morning. I just uh, had to do some heavy duty cleaning today, so I'm a little bit on the worn side. So I'll probably be taking a nap sometime during the day to save my energy for BTM reviews tonight. If anybody has not yet watched BTM reviews, uh, then I highly recommend tuning in to the channel tonight. And you will catch me and Dave, of course, and probably, who knows, Jim Salata, Julio Scissors. There's all sorts of people who love to join in and enjoy the fun. So that's BTM reviews tonight. I will be live streaming with the gang there. And hopefully they will also be able to comment on how my technical setup looks and sounds compared to my old rig. This is a new laptop I'm working on, and I have some limited confidence in it. I think I had some skips and stuff during the last live stream that I did, so that's not very heartening. This laptop is limited with 2 integrated graphics, and I probably should have bought something that had a graphics card. But I gotta tell you, having used an Alienware computer for the last 10 years, and having to lug that big thing around and, having it just absolutely crush your legs every time it's on your lap, not to mention the burn scars I had for a little while for how hot it would run. Having a lightweight HP laptop is actually pretty sweet. I like the fact that this thing is just like so lightweight. It would not be trouble at all to carry it around through, airport security or anything like that. It's a nice little lightweight, quiet rig compared to the Alienware. The only problem is it doesn't have a graphics card, and that's kind of limiting. So Backy Xavier says, "What's up, Mike?" Oh well, just waiting for the fun to start tonight. I'll be on BTM reviews later, and you're of course welcome to join us all there. I wanted to talk today about Cyberfrog and Rippaverse, and I a long time ago I put together a video where no, actually it was a live stream that I made a clip of talking about which is more fun, ISOM or Cyberfrog. And as I was looking back at that video, I thought to myself, there is a palpable difference now between the Rippaverse and Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog verse, if you want to call it that. That is hard to miss at this point. And I know there's some people who are going to joke and say, well, yeah, I mean, one of them is publishing books on the regular and the other one is not. But the real thing that I think differs is in the sheer lack of vision that exists on the Rippaverse side. And to exemplify that, I want to highlight the fact that when Eric July came up with the character of Gooding, he never gave Gooding a first name. Writer Mike Barron, who took over and wrote Gooding the Polymath after Gooding made his debut in ISOM #2, it was Mike Barron who came up with the first name Kato for this character. And when I heard that, I started to realize something about the Rippaverse that I assumed was not the case. And that is, there really was no plan to this whole universe. I mean, there might have been a plan as far as rolling characters out, that ISOM was going to introduce Alpha Core and YAIRA, and then maybe ISOM #2 was going to introduce Bloodruth and Gooding, and then, as you go forward, more and more characters would be introduced. But that's really it. There was no story, no ideas behind these characters other than just bare elements, just stick figures in terms of how they were fleshed out. If you wanted to look how these Rippaverse characters were fleshed out, you'd be seeing nothing but skeletons for the most part. ISOM, sure, there's much more to ISOM than there has been to any of these other characters, but as far as the character of Brian Solari goes, as far as the character of YAIRA goes, the surprising thing is not that the writers of those respective books, Chuck Dixon and the Soska sisters, have had to fill in the blanks. And same thing with Mike Barron on Gooding, that they had to fill in the blanks. That's to be expected. But the idea that there were so many blanks of such wide scope, it was as if, let me just come up with a basic idea. I'm going to plop it on the page, get a character design for it, write a few dialogue balloons, and that is going to be the character, and hopefully someone else will take it from there. And that really is all the Rippaverse has amounted to for the most part. It has been Eric July coming up with some bare bones, a framework for the Rippaverse, and then letting other talent try and hang their clothes on that framework. Contrast that with Ethan Van Sciver's work on Cyberfrog. Cyberfrog is a multi-decade story where he's got old source material that, he's already published in the past, but that source material is not canonical anymore. And now he's developing kind of the latter or middle, I guess, portion of Cyberfrog's career, because I suspect, this Vespa's invasion is kind of going to be the before and after point of Cyberfrog's career, with everything coming before, being the province of various other titles. But the main Cyberfrog storyline is going to progress through Red Extermination and Green Supremacy, and then on into the future. And not only is he beginning to expand out from his core story, because right now he's got Cyberfrog Blood Honey, which kicked off his canonical series. He's got Wrecked Planet, which continues the story. He's got Dark Harvest, which is going to be debuting in a last chance campaign tonight, or this weekend at least. And by the way, if you passed on Dark Harvest thinking that Dark Harvest was going to be a trivial addition to the Cyberfrog mythos, according to Ethan Van Sciver, this thing has been expanded and developed way beyond its original scope. Because back in the beginning, when Dark Harvest was first offered, the idea was that he was going to do a 4 or 10 page story, and that was going to be the only original material. And then the next 10 pages were going to be the first 10 pages of Cyberfrog 3. So Dark Harvest was originally intended to be more like a Cyberfrog preview book of Volume 3, Red Extermination. But it's not anymore. The thing has gone under multiple metamorphoses until now. It's finally ready to go to print, and it is an independent story in itself that connects Cyberfrog 2, Wrecked Planet, with Cyberfrog 3 in what he says is a very meaningful way. You don't want to miss this installment of the Cyberfrog storyline. So I'm just telling you, if you have not picked up Cyberfrog Dark Harvest and you are looking to pick up Red Extermination, you need to get Dark Harvest, or else you are probably going to be lost when you start on Red Extermination, whenever that comes out. Now, all that being said, when Ethan Van Sciver came up with this idea for Cyberfrog, one of the things that he told his audience and made clear was that he was doing it somewhat as a commentary on his own life, his own experience in the comic book business. In effect, he's kind of like Cyberfrog himself. And it was, I think the way that he put it was that he was kind of asleep at the switch and doing work for the big two for, say 2 decades. And this is represented in the comics by the 2 decades that Cyberfrog has spent in suspended animation. So that now that he's come out of suspended animation, to come out of working for the big 2 after being really kicked out of working for the big 2, he is now horribly aware of how the SJWs, represented by the Vespas, LMAE says hello, hello, how the Vespas, who represent the SJWs, have taken over the comic book industry the same way that the Vespas in the comics have taken over the world. And so Cyberfrog is really a commentary on the state of comics. And so he's got this grander vision for Cyberfrog that you may not see if you're just reading it at the surface level. Now, those of us who have been, comic book readers for a long time are going to see certain parallels. We see the Superman parallel from the beginning of Blood Honey, where he's, his rocket ship is rocketing to Earth past a giant red sun, and it's like, hey, I can tell the Superman imagery from here, and his status is kind of Earth's Messiah, the same way that Superman was a kind of messianic figure in the tradition of Moses from the Bible. There, you can see those themes that are running through it. And so now that he's actually bringing more titles than just Cyberfrog into the mix, he's got Lynx coming out, which is the story of a girl who was born at the time of the Vespa's invasion, if I'm not mistaken, so that she's about 20 years old at the time of her book. And so she's never known a world without the Vespas ruling over it. And there's also Cyberfrog 1993, The Diary of Heather Swain, which is a title that's going to explore the relationship between Heather Swain and Cyberfrog in his first years. And then there's Cyberfrog, Frog Meets World, which is also going to be a chronicling of his earlier adventures in the Cyberfrog universe prior to the Vespa's invasion in 1998. And when you see how all of this is going to be his commentary on the comic book world, how things were back in the day when he started and when he was working in that world, and how things are now, and what we have to do in order to take that comic book world back from the people who have perverted it, there is a much grander vision in the Cyberfrog universe than anything that is coming out of the Rippaverse. Now, granted, we do have this new title, The Great War of Separation, which is the latest book coming out of the Rippaverse. And this is supposed to be the Rippaverse's own origin story, which makes the fact that they've only sold 5,000 copies of this book so far massively pathetic. It is horrific when you think about the fact that you have got this book has been stated to be the origin of the Alpha Core characters Brian Solari and Braxwell, and half of the people who bought Alpha Core don't care. What the heck? PumaFest says, yo right back. What is going on when you cannot get, I mean, you remember what the biggest question that people were asking about ISOM in the beginning? It was like, how did he get his powers? What is his origin? Where did these powers come from? Blah, 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 blah. And now you've got an origin story for one of the Rippaverse characters, at least for Brian Solari, and I presume Braxwell, since they were operating around the same time. And Puma Fist is asking, you still on X, Mike? You haven't been around a while, have you? Because I got banned from X. My ass is booted from there. They deleted my account. So I'm on Gab. That's where I'm at. I'm thinking about getting on Truth Social. That's the other place. And of course, there's always Blue Sky if I want to piss off the liberals over there. But I don't know. It has been so long. It has been at least 2 years, maybe 3, since I was booted from X. And I don't know whether I really want to get on another social media platform like X. Uh and I mean eventually someday if I ever start like a comic book editing company or something, which I do have an intention of doing someday. Um LMAE says Minds. Nah, I don't even know if anybody I know is on Minds. It's like Minds is one of those things that just seems like off. You never hear about it. I've heard about at least Truth Social. I've heard about Threads, which is the Facebook, Instagram version of it. I've heard of uh, what's the other? Well, of course, Gab. Gab was like one of the first ones to really take off. Let's see. Pumafest says I wanted to know if you'd want to do a live chat with Luke Korolowitz art about Rippaverse. Um, sure, if I can schedule it. I mean, depending on the scheduling of it. Usually it's weekends are probably the best for me, or at least in the evenings or something. But yeah, I mean, if you want to either get on Gab or and let me know there, that's probably the best place to chat with me. Let's see. Oh, and Variant 47 says Rippaverse and Cyberfrog both have some parallels. A few days back, Cyberfrog crashed into Heather's car. Um, I think Ethan Van Sciver addressed that Heather was actually having a driving lesson, and she crashes her car into Cyberfrog, and maybe that's how the two meet for the first time. But it's not quite the same as being thrown in dropped from a car from or dropped onto a car on the great height. Pumafest says I'm not on Gab. Well, get on Gab. It's a free service. You can get a free account, and then just link to my account out there, and or follow me on there. I'll follow back, and then we can chat. He's doing his open mic tonight. Tonight is probably not good. It depends on the time because I'm going to be on BTM reviews tonight. So it just depends on exactly when he's doing it. BTM reviews, this thing is starting in about I want to say 7 hours, 6.5 hours. So that's going to be about 7 o'clock ish. It'll be around 11 p.m. Huh. I don't know. The best thing you could probably do is send me. How would we manage that? Well, first step, get a Gab account, and then link up with me there. And then if there's a link or something that you want to send me, or that'd be the place to do it. Because otherwise, I don't really have any chat functions outside of that. Da, da, da. Rippaverse fell in a car. LMAE was recommending Mastodon and Pleroma. Yeah, I've never heard of Pleroma. I have not heard good things about Mastodon for some reason. I think you have to have your own server or your own Mastodon in order to get that stuff going. I don't know. I don't really want to see. Here's the thing: is I've been gone from social media in the small. Do I have an email address you can give? I can give out. Sure. The one that let's see. MJ Partika. Here, let me just type it in the chat. Hold on a second. Yeah, try that one. And but I can't make any guarantees. I can't guarantee that I'm going to be on. Uh where was I? Oh god. Yeah, social media. I have been off of social media so long that I don't I'm almost afraid to get I was kind of addicted to X back in the day. It was still I think it was still Twitter then, I'm not sure. But I don't remember. I mean, certainly it was not something that it was something that was if I would get on another social media platform like that, it would probably consume what little time I have, and I don't want to really get into that kind of time consumption kind of thing. Uh I mean, it's bad enough that, I exist on, another social media platform here or there, and so if I check those, then, occasionally I get drawn into this or that conversation. I mean, YouTube, I make posts there. Gab, I'll make posts there. Um, and the other thing is that all of the celebrities and stuff are on Twitter. I mean, the major comic book network is on Twitter, so it's like if people don't replicate onto those other networks, then it's just like, I guess, people who they buy Apple product. There's just limited appeal. Truth Social would probably be the next platform that I would go to if I were to get onto social media. So, but that's about it. Oh goodness. Okay, so you'll have Luke reach out to me. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, yeah, have him do that. I just can't guarantee tonight. Tonight may not be a good. Okay, where was I? Talking about Cyberfrog and Rippaverse. Okay, so we've got this Great War of Separation comic, and so far it has only sold about 5,000 copies. Now that's 5,000 copies of the book. That says nothing about the number of purchasers, which is really the metric that I wish he would have continued to display. But as of, I guess, Bloodruth or something, he doesn't display that metric anymore. And what the reason I say that is because you have no idea, we have no idea how many of those copies have been bought by just one person. There's four different covers of the Great War of Separation, and of those four, I'm kind of amazed that the cover C is just as bland as it is, considering that's the one that's supposed to be the foil cover, or the premium cover. It's just kind of on the bland side. And then there's another cover that's kind of like the South will rise again. I don't even understand that one. That one's got like plantation imagery on it and almost Confederate imagery on it. I don't think you'd really want that, do you? So it's kind of funny because it's like, it's not like the North was coming for your debutante balls. They were trying to stamp out something a lot harder than that. But you could have one person buy all four of those covers, and it'll count as four covers on the total. So how do we know that it's not just like 1,000 people who have bought Rippaverse books, or 1,500 or 2,000, and what a pathetic showing that would be. Well, thanks for hooking me up with Luke. Luke, who is it? Luke Korolowitz art? Okay. Uh, so we've got this book that's supposed to be the origin story for the entire Rippaverse, and nobody cares. Nobody cares about it. It's almost like the race swap that happened with Mick Davies and Horseman. It got past five different people, assuming any of them even read it. Nobody cares. You have to. Can you imagine? I mean, I would be so embarrassed if I were the Soska sisters to have let that thing slide by. I mean, they had Mick Davies in their own damn YAIRA #1 comic, and then when he shows up in Alpha, or when he shows up in Horseman, Welcome to Florist Park, they don't notice that the guy's changed from old and white to young and black. How the hell does that happen? Especially if you're the lore keepers of the freaking thing. What is the point of you if you can't catch errors like that? So my point about the Rippaverse was really that you've got this Great War of Separation, but aside from maybe one or 2 points that were offered by Eric July, I don't know that he contributed really anything out of his own mind to this. Chuck Dixon is the one doing the heavy lifting of doing the writing. So how much did Eric July actually contribute? I'm really curious to know that. I mean, what is the story of the breakaway, or Texas's breakaway, supposed to be? Or how the United States fractured? I don't know that Eric knows. I really don't, because if he doesn't know one of his own characters' first names, why the hell would he know any details about any of these major plot events that he's put together? I mean, just look at YAIRA for one thing. I mean, how much of that actually came out of his mind? How much of that was entirely the Soska sisters? When it comes to Bloodruth, how much of that has come out of his mind? and how much of that is the Soska sisters' creation? I'm really starting to get curious about anything that he's given over to other writers to do. Because think of how Chuck Dixon wrote Alpha Core in such a way that it was almost contradictory to the characters that Eric had established in ISOM number 1 and ISOM number 2. If you read ISOM number 2 and you read how Brian Solari talks, and then you look at Alpha Core number 1 and you see how he talks and acts there, you're looking at two different characters. You're looking at people who have two entirely different personalities. And the same goes for YAIRA number 1. If you look at how Ingrid Valdez is completely deferential to Brian Solari and thinking he's great and calling him sir and all that kind of stuff. And then you go over to Alpha Core number 1 and she is all up in his grill like the entire time. You understand these are different characters that are being written here. These are not the same characters, just being written a little bit different. And Variant 47 says ISOM number 1 story was vague and needed separation war backstory in it. It's too late now. It wouldn't be too late if they'd taken the time to give it a little bit more of an overhaul in that Rippaverse Trinity book. I mean, I know they've taken time to like redo some of the artwork in that thing, and I am going to love taking that book apart. My soft cover on that is on the way, and so are my copies of The Great War of Separation. What is not on the way, however, is any copies of YAIRA number 2, because those are the ones that I'm looking to get funded by you. I need $20. $20 as all that's left for me to do a YAIRA number 2 review. So if there's anyone out there who's interested in seeing me review YAIRA number 2, I am going to be passing that thing by unless the $50 goal is met, and we're $30 of the way there already. So $20 left is all that's needed for YAIRA number 2. So let's see. Backy Xavier says, yeah, like I said, it fell hard. It might as well be in the Earth's core. Yeah, well, where the devilings come from, I guess. I'm just kind of shocked by how threadbare the whole Rippaverse concept is. Because I was expecting that Eric July would have at least a vision for the first issues of each of his individual comic book properties. You know, I thought that he would have a plan for what Alpha Core was going to do after ISOM number 2. I thought he was going to have a plan for what YAIRA was going to do for YAIRA number 1. But he didn't even get any story credit for any of those. He at least is getting story credit for this Great War of Separation. So I'm assuming that some of the ideas are coming from him. But how much and what and how strong are these ideas, and how much maybe these ideas should have been tossed out the door, like, making Brian Solari a general? Oh my God, really? I mean, and for Chuck Dixon to have to suffer under that. I mean, I gave him a lot of crap in my little short where I was talking about how, has Chuck Dixon even read Alpha Core number 1, given that he wrote Alpha Core number 1? Because you would not make Brian Solari a general. This guy is like a grunt, if anything. And he's supposed to have been a commander at some time. I mean, unless one of the side effects of his powers is like he's Charlie in that movie based on Flowers for Algernon, where he just gets dumber over time the more powerful he gets. Let's see. Eccentric says, I'm late, but good to see Mike dropping truth bombs as usual. Yeah, I hope so. I hope I am. I'm dropping 3D assets too. This might be one of my favorite Rippaverse shirts. But and somehow it doesn't I don't wind up with a matter antimatter reaction when I wear an all caps comic hat with the Rippaverse shirt. So as long as the streams don't cross. Yeah, Brian Solari. I mean, he crashes the helicarrier at the end of Alpha Core number 1, and it's like you nearly killed the damn city. Why on earth would anybody have ever made this guy a general in any kind of army? And does it's almost like Eric doesn't know how to take this in another direction either. Because if I were Eric July, and my original idea was that Brian Solari was a general working in the United States Army, who then defected to the Texas Army and became a superpowered person there. If I were Chuck Dixon, I know that I would have pushed back on that, saying, okay, well, that's not really consistent with the way I wrote him in Alpha Core #1. Shouldn't we like change gears so that he's more of, just kind of a private or sergeant at best who gets called up to submit himself to these experiments? Because, a general isn't really going to submit himself to whatever experimental treatments are going to make these people into accepts. That really wouldn't make it any sense to have a general be the one to do that. I mean, the generals are the strategists. The generals are not the blunt force objects like Brian Solari himself is. But either they had that conversation and Eric said, no, just write it the way I said, which, would be completely consistent with his ego. Or Chuck Dixon just basically said, hey, as long as you're paying the checks, I'll write whatever the hell you want and within whatever constraints you want. I mean, which could also be the case. I have no confidence whatsoever that any of these writers or artists working for the Rippaverse on a contractual basis, on a work for hire basis, feel any obligation to turn in their A game. And I know some of them have said to the contrary, things like, I don't let anything leave the house unless, it's A quality. Like, really? Because your definition of A quality may be different from mine, or that's just not the case. So let's see. Invariant 47 said Rippaverse warehouse asset made an appearance on the USAID Peruvian comics controversy. Yes, I did see that. It's funny because I don't generally have a problem with the use of 3D assets, but at the same time, you don't want to see them pop up just everywhere. You would kind of hope that even SketchUp has a more varied assortment of images that you could use. Like, here's warehouse #1. Here's another set of warehouses you can purchase. Here's a whole warehouse additional expansion. Here are all the things that might possibly be in a warehouse. Get the warehouse pack from SketchUp and then select different warehouse styles when you're there, but don't use the same one over and over again. I mean, I saw that one, some picture from something that Cliff Richards had worked on before, where the house in ISOM #2 that Avery goes back home to and sleeps on the couch and stuff, that the couch, the living room, the house, everything had been copied from the same 3D objects that he'd used in another comic book for either Dark Horse or Image or something like that. It was there from a prior comic. So that is just kind of embarrassing. You don't want to read two things by the same artist and see exactly the same art in them. But at the same time, I'm not faulting Cliff Richards for doing that kind of art in one or the other books. It's just a little bit gauche to do it in both, as if nobody is going to read your work across multiple universes, and so you don't have to really worry about people noticing what you've done in terms of just copying and pasting. So that is the threadbare nature of the Rippaverse is what makes it so much less appealing to me. There is no full concept. I mean, even the Great War of Separation is an appeal to the past. This is the Rippaverse's past we're talking about. The Rippaverse's future is being made more in comics like YAIRA #2 and ISOM #3 and Norfolka #1 and the next Gooding series and Horseman and such like that. But we have no idea where that's going either. We have all these disjointed comic books spread out. Like, pick a card, any card. Hopefully you'll like one of these books and keep buying it. But there's no universal thread making any sort of connection. There's no grand villains. There's no grand plot to the Rippaverse that I thought there would be. At least there isn't right now. Of course, everything's open to change, Because when ISOM number 3 comes out, maybe we'll find out that there's some grand overarching enemy. I mean, at the end of ISOM number 2, we saw some kind of, deviling leader who is apparently, the ruler of some hell in a pocket dimension or something like that. And maybe that character will have some kind of overarching importance to the Rippaverse. But I don't see it so far. And maybe Norfolka is going to be what ties a lot of these things together. I mean, my favorite, one of my favorite comic book universes. There have been a couple. They've all had general goals in mind, like the editorial staff of that comic book company had an idea that they were heading towards, had some grand crossover that would, once they had established all of their initial comic book characters, then they would bring them all together in a way that made sense. And from there, you could figure out, okay, what were the consequences of this whole great big crossover, like Valiant did with Unity. Valiant came up with like 8 different titles. It came up with Solar, Man of the Atom, Magnus Robot Fighter. Those were a couple of Dell Key proper, Dell prop. Yeah, it is Gold Key properties. You had Harbinger, you had Exo Man of War, you had Rye, you had Shadow Man, you had Archer and Armstrong, and Eternal Warrior. Those were the 8 titles that made up Valiant Comics at the time. And you could see how everything was kind of shaping together, and they all converged on this one major threat in a way that made it believable for all these different properties that were in like past, present, and future to cross over with each other. And then they all spread out, and you got to see the impact of that crossover. Same thing with Defiant Comics. When Jim Shooter got kicked out of Valiant and then formed the company Defiant, there was a crossover that all of the titles were heading towards called Schism. And by the way, if you didn't know this, this is something important. If you remember Schism from back in the day, how they had solicited that, but they never published it. There is a crowdfunding venture on Kickstarter, I want to say, where that is actually in the works now. They're going to actually release the Schism 4-part series all in one volume that was going to wrap up the first phase of the Defiant universe. And I've gone ahead and backed that myself. And I want to encourage anybody to back that themselves as well. In fact, let me look that up. I want to say Kickstarter comic Schism. Jim Shooter's forgotten cult classic is being published 30 years later. So the project is live on Kickstarter, and I found the link. And so far, there are only 22 backers. 22? Freaking seriously? Come on, people. Okay, there is a $61,000, $200 goal, and they have so far collected $29,000 or almost $30,000 towards that goal. So they're about halfway to the goal. They've got 22 days to go. So if you're finishing donating to me to get a YAIRA number 2 review, then and if you remember Defiant Comics from back in the day, I would highly recommend picking this up, because this is I'm going to get, even though I'm probably not going to enjoy it terribly much, because I don't think like the Defiant universe was like the best thing since sliced bread. It has its own kind of Rippaverse type problems to it, but it's just going to be fun encountering these old characters again. I just wonder how many people out there would like to get into that. How in the hell did they raise? Okay, so they didn't have 22 backers. They had 139 backers. 139 backers. What is the average number of dollars contributed then? 29,770 divided by 139. That means that means on average, people contributed $214 to the project. What in the world costs $214? Because what I did, okay, so there's the, be careful what you, I went for the digital copies of all 4 issues, and that's $75. And so the thing that hits the $200 mark is really, it would be all 4 physical copies and all 4 digital copies of Schism, Be Careful What You Dream. And it also contains the limited edition hardcover collected edition with the J.J. Jackson remark. Okay. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I mean, as much as I already got rid of the most of my Defiant comics, if not all of them. I think I still have a few. I have the one of the things that Defiant Comics did that was just they had to, because they were being funded by this trading card company called the River Group, and so they actually released Plasm #0 and Dark Dominion #0 as trading card sets. You actually had to assemble the comic book from a box of trading cards, and you may not get all the cards. That was a pretty amazing idea right there, and I don't think it generated anywhere near the revenue that they were hoping it would. And I don't blame, the writers or the comic book people involved with that for that. That was just a dumb idea on on the part of whoever was doing the backing for these books. And they're not the only company who had done that, by the way. There was another comic book company called Majestic Publishing, and they did a comic book called Legacy Zero. And Legacy Zero was released as a trading card set. So somebody actually thought it was a good enough idea to replicate. I'm just like, really? Really? And thankfully, I went and I got, I didn't get the trading card set. I got just a copy of the actual comic book that it was put together as. And man, I don't know who comes up with some of these ideas sometimes. I mean, even when I was collecting Magic the Gathering cards, I mean, the idea of being able to get a full set was just like beyond me. I remember I think when Plasm Zero came out, I did get a box of all the cards, and I was still missing cards. And I mean, common cards, common rarity cards. I could not collect a full set of the cards just to put the story together. So yeah, that was just a horrible idea. And then, of course, Marvel sued them because Marvel was coming out with a series called Plasma, and even though they changed the title of the book to Warriors of Plasm, Marvel still kept suing them, and that wound up draining them of the financial resources they needed to keep the company going. So I'm glad that this Kickstarter is coming back online, and I will. Let me see if I can go ahead and. I think I'm allowed to at least post a link in the chat. There we go. That is the link to the Schism project. So anybody who remembers Defiant Comics from back in the day and wanted to know how that series was going to wrap up, there you are. And you're probably just going to have to find the rest of the comics either on eBay or in comic book shops, or whatever your particular means of finding obscure back issues is. But they had a plan. That's kind of the point of what I'm getting at, why I'm even bringing up Defiant in the first place, is that they had a plan. They had an idea of where their comic books were going to go over the first year. I don't get the idea that Rippaverse ever had that kind of a plan. I feel like even in the case of ISOM #2 and ISOM #3, I don't feel like there was a plan. It doesn't feel like ISOM #2 organically led from ISOM #1. I think that either Eric had ISOM #2 written as the conclusion to the ill-advised arc, and then the whole Bloodruth and Gooding thing was going to be part of ISOM number 3 as part of the beginning of the next arc involving the Devilings and stuff. Or I think, or it's possible that he just didn't have anything written at all. I've always felt like if I was going to create a comic book series, like if it was 4 issues or something, I would have all 4 of those issues written, at least written. Even if they weren't, even if they hadn't all been worked on, I'd like to at least have them all written. In fact, I would want to have the whole thing in the can. I would want to have everything there and printed up. Now, maybe that's not a good idea as far as crowdfunding goes. I mean, as far as crowdfunding goes, the way, of course, back in the day, crowdfunding was not available. We didn't have the internet back when I first got into the comic book business. This was like 1998, 1999. Well, the internet existed, but it was not nearly as sophisticated as it is now, and crowdfunding was not yet a thing, as far as I could tell, as far as I remember, anyway. And if I were to put out a comic today and I had an idea that it was going to be about 2 or 3 issues long, I would at least want to have all of the work done for those issues and then do the crowdfunding or pre-order campaign after that to see how much I would actually need to print of those. But I would definitely want to have all the work done first, at least all of my work done. Anything that I could accomplish for free towards getting the whole project done, and then having the crowdfunding come in to supplant what I wasn't able to do by myself, that's probably where I would have taken that. I don't know. I mean, it's funny because I was just listening to Ed Lattimore today, and he was saying, if you want to do something, go find somebody who's already done it and find out from that person what the best way to do it is. And that may be another place where Eric July just shot himself in the foot, because he apparently went into purchasing a warehouse that he didn't need, to employing a lot of staff that he didn't need, instead of running a lean and tight enterprise like Ethan Van Sciver does with just, a few employees and maybe some rented warehouse space. He could have gotten some people who could tell him, here's how you do things. You don't have to do it all through. I know he's kind of like, well, the way the other people have always done things, that doesn't mean that it's the best way for you, but sure as heck does seem like it's the best way for him now. Looking back, why on earth would you want to print more than you need of your particular comic? Why on earth would you need a warehouse that had all of this backstock when you could just, crowdfund more printings as you needed them? I mean, maybe that's just kicking a dead horse kind of issue, but it's there to be kicked. So anyway, looking back at what I had originally published or in a video before, when I was talking about, which is more fun, Cyberfrog or Rippaverse, I think what I recall from having just rewatched that video is that Rippaverse I was initially more excited about because you had all these properties coming out that were not, so it was not going to be just ISOM. It was, and Eccentric says, my opinion, I think EJ wanted to have it all too fast. I mean, very, very likely. And got tempted by the fact that he did collect so much in the beginning, and then, of course, shut himself off to criticism after that. It was like the money told him he was too good to listen to those who could have warned him away from the pitfalls that he's now in. And back then when I made that video, I was saying that, Rippaverse seemed fun at first because you had all these characters who were appearing and they would be jumping off into their own titles, and you could get to see where all this stuff was going, where this universe was building to. And then Now that we've had all of those characters making their appearances various places, except for Norfolk, which will appear at some point during this year, if all goes to plan, you find out there really is no plan for the stories that are happening in the Rippaverse. That he's having to rely on outside talent to direct where his company should go. That he's relying on fan input more than anything else to direct where his company should go. What is the point of that? I mean, we don't want to just see our own ideas handed back to us in some, decrepit form. What we're looking for is a vision on the part of the creator. And that's what we're getting with Cyberfrog. With the Cyberfrog comics, even if you don't like absolutely everything that there is that comes out of the Cyberfrog universe of the books and all that, you know that at least you are getting a creative vision that is unique to that creator's properties, that he's got a theme that is running through his titles, and he is going to be doing variations on that theme throughout the titles. And it makes me curious to see how these titles will develop upon those themes. With Rippaverse, I don't know, and I don't really care where any of this is going. And that's the worst thing about the Rippaverse. I cannot begin to care about where these thinly developed characters are going, because it doesn't seem like Eric himself, as the creator of these characters, has invested enough in these characters, except for maybe just a core set, like the ones that take the main stage in ISOM number 1 and 2. It doesn't feel like he's invested enough of himself in these characters to really communicate any life to us. What is he trying to say with these characters? What is he trying to do with these characters? And now that the Great War of Separation is coming out, where that is, I'm guessing, supposed to be some sort of foundational statement about the Rippaverse and what the Rippaverse means and all that, he's handed off the writing duties to somebody else. It's not even going to be really his vision that hits the page if what do you call it? If Alpha Core is any indication, if Gooding is any indication, these characters are not going to be anything like what they should be. Eccentric with $5, one step closer to your goal, Mike. Thank you so much. We are now $15 away from a YAIRA number 2 review. $15, and I will go out there and purchase a couple of copies of YAIRA number 2, one for reading and one to cannibalize for scans. And out of the covers, I think one of the reasons that I kept the price down on this one is because I prefer the cover D out of all of them. So that's the cheapest cover. It's kind of interesting that that he makes that mass market cover cheaper than the other ones. I would have thought that he would have just kept those the same price, and then maybe later on. Well, I guess it does make sense if that's the final price that he's going to charge. But why would you want to make a cheaper cover copy? Does that make sense to anybody else? I mean, let's say you have 3 normal covers, and then you have the premium cover, of course. That's the one you're going to be charging like $50 for. And you've got, why would you make the mass market cover cheaper than the others? Why wouldn't you just keep the prices the same and then let people just pick the ones that they like the most? Do you think maybe it's because he's printing a certain amount and he wants those ones? No, that doesn't make any sense either. Because if he wants people to buy the more expensive covers, then it would make sense for him to charge exactly the same thing for the mass market cover. I cannot fathom a single reason why he would charge less for the Run the Point Nine says at work we'll have to catch the playback. no problem. And I should be on BTM reviews later tonight if that's something you want to watch real time. Uh, it didn't even hit me until just now. This is fascinating to me. I don't. Why on earth would he charge less for his mass market cover as if he were to say, I want to incentivize you to buy this one as opposed to either of the other covers? Why wouldn't he just make them all the same? Let me go look at the price differential here, because I think the price differential is a bit significant. Rippaverse.com. Let's go to the Great War of Separation. One of these days, I'm going to get on StreamYard and I'm going to be able to, share my screen and all that. And I hope that my graphics card is up to the task. Oh, come on. Okay, the Great War of Separation. I'm going to that one because that's the latest collection to come out. Man, he has not even reached 5,000 books on that yet. That's just crazy. 4 covers. And, all right, pick a cover. So between $14 and $30 is what you can pay for the Great War of Separation #1. By the way, this is going to be a limited series, so it's not just a full book in and of itself. I'm going to wind up buying another issue of this crap. Ugh. So if you buy cover C, that's the foil embossed treatment by Joe Bennett. And it features Alpha Core's Brian Solari in a really unimpressive pose and an even more unimpressive background. What in the hell are they selling this as a prime cover for? And he's opening his shirt, and there's no logo there. There's no logo there. He's acting like Superman without a logo. He's like, da, 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 bah, nothing underneath. I don't. What the? Okay, so $30 for the foil cover. That's pretty cheap for the foil cover, and especially for a picture that freaking unimpressive. If you buy either of the cover A, which is kind of the main cover, or cover B, which is the retro style cover, you pay $18. And then if you get the mass market cover, it's $14. Why would you do that to yourself? Why aren't all 3 of the lower priced regular covers? Frog Tony chips in with the $15 needed. Saying you will never make sense of the Rippaverse nonsense. I can't wait to see your YAIRA 2 review, which is coming now. It is coming. I will, as soon as this live stream is over, I will go and I will make the purchases. I'll be sure to send you a free review copy of my comic, Awesome Amphibian Adventures, when it comes out. Yes, please do. Thank you so much. The all-seeing Ian says he's operating as the secondary market himself, collecting the rarity premiums. Mass market has more supply, so lower standard price. Yeah, I know, but why? If I guess what I'm saying is, if I wanted to say, if I wanted to get more money, I mean, just laying it out. If I wanted to get more money, I would want to pick a price for all 3 of those books and make it an equal price. I mean, the premium one that it's more expensive to make, the one with the foil cover, then yeah, I mean, upcharge that one. But the ones that are going to be the more limited editions, why wouldn't you charge the same thing for the mass market one? Because that's basically saying, look, whichever one of those you like more, just get that. And then you're having the reader pay more. I mean, there's got to be some people out there who said, huh, I actually like cover A more, but I can't pass up the fact that cover D is $4 cheaper. So I'm just going to go with cover D. And there, Eric has shorted himself $4. I, I don't get that. That doesn't sound like a good financial strategy to me. I mean, even if you were to just make all three of the titles like $16 or something, split the difference. And that way, they can pick among all three of those. But why on earth would you have like a cheapo copy and not expect that people are going to buy the cheapo copy, given that they're going to get the same story within? I just don't get it. JB says Eric needs to cut his costs and he'll probably be okay. I don't know. But thanks to everyone who contributed over time and in this live stream to the YAIRA #2 collection. I'm hoping that now I have taken upon myself to pay for the Rippaverse Trinity and for the Great War of Separation. So I'm not about to burden anybody here with either of those. those are on me. But YAIRA #2. I really didn't see a need to review that one, but apparently the need is there. The call has gone out. The clarion cry has been made. Mike, we need you to do this YAIRA #2 review. Here you go. So thank you all, and I will make that purchase as soon as I'm done with the live stream here. But oh my goodness! And speaking of which, I should probably wrap it up because I am going to be on later tonight with BTM reviews. I think it's a movie watching night tonight, so by all means feel free to join us there, and looking forward to having a good time poking fun at a couple of movies, one of which I don't think I have not seen before. So go on over if you haven't been to BTM Reviews YouTube channel. Definitely check out the website of the YouTube page. See the prior live streams and such. And on last night's live stream, in fact, I one of my YouTube shorts was featured, the one I have on the Great War of Separation. So, and feel free to visit my channel for any of the previous video stuff that I've done before. Shadowpunk says, do it. The world needs a YAIRA 2 review from you. We won't survive without it. All right. Well, golly, I did not know that the survival of my readership depended on my doing a YAIRA 2 review. But oh boy, here it comes. So some other books for review that I've got lined up. Just to remind you, I've got Dino King, by Liam Gray. What else do I have? I have a review from a new publisher, Mrs. G. She's done some comics that are on the erotica side. I may have to do some redaction for some of this comic, but she sent me and given me permission to do a video review of one of her comics. And let's see, what else do I have on the docket? I know that Bloodruth will eventually be coming. The Rippaverse Trinity eventually is coming. Eric Weathers did, or is it Eric Weathers or Kyle Ritters who did Starblades? Whichever one of those, that was published by All Caps Comics. Starblades is another one that I've got. And so we've got a wide variety here. Also Frank Miller and Dan DiDio with their Ancient Enemies series. I've got a lot of stuff backed up here, and then it's just kind of piling up. But I gotta fit this in with real life as well, and it just takes time. But we've got some wild times ahead of us. Let's see. JB said, Shadowpunk says, "What on earth does that T-shirt say?" This is the 3D assets T-shirt from Rippaverse that shows YAIRA and ISOM with the 3D block style. So that one. Yeah, I have to make sure that the all caps comic doesn't come into contact with the Rippaverse shirt, or else there may be an explosion. JB said, "Be interesting to see a Niobe comic review at some point." I do have a short video on YouTube where it's only about a minute long, where I look at a couple of things to do with some Niobe panels that were posted online. But I looked at it and I was tempted to get it, but I wasn't sure if the books that were being offered were actually the first books in the series, and I do tend to prefer not to jump on in the middle of a series. So maybe if there's an omnibus someday, but I've seen some of the work, and it's there. It's some cheesecake stuff. I don't know how high concept it really is. Shadowpunk says that's hilarious. Eric July has a sense of humor. He does. He does at that. I mean, what I have the other shirt that says, "What's your favorite part?" And Shadowpunk says, "I'm afraid to even ask what Niobe is." Niobe Comics is a comic by Larry. Is it Larry somebody or other? Sorry, I'm forgetting his name. Does anybody know? Oh, Niobe Birthright is about abortion, by the way. Oh well, that's just okay. Niobe books are not cheesecake, just the covers are. Yeah, I've seen some of the interiors too. It's like, eh. Um, but it is a story about. I mean, it's kind of one of those. Let's do X-Men without calling it X-Men. Is what it seemed like to me. Um, she has the ability to create teleportation portals, kind of like I think Blink of the X-Men does, and there's some like higher themes of what the government is doing in order to suppress the activities of people who are empowered. Niobe is what if only women are mutants, and it's not about cheesecake. You're saying that kind of reminds me of how many of you read the series Black? Uh, let's see. JB says, "Mike, are you reading any new Marvel or DC books?" No. In fact, I've gotten to the point where I'm almost not interested in reading any solicitations from Marvel and DC anymore. I'm really just bored out of my mind by them, and I can't connect to the characters anymore. They've been through so many storylines, and they always just kind of rubber band back around to their original setting and original concept, that I just don't care anymore. They don't feel real anymore the way they did back in the day. Uh, Shadowpunk says, "Fair enough. Most modern comics are derivative of something." And JB says that's very true. Um, yeah, but who was it? Kwanzaa? And he went by Kwanzaa online, but I don't know I don't remember what his real name is. But he had a series called Black, and it was later trademarked being Black AF. So I guess Black is whatever. And his premise was, what if only Black people had superpowers? But unfortunately, I didn't think very much of the end product. In fact, I got into a heated argument on Twitter with him back in the day when I was still on Twitter, and because I felt like he had the opportunity to do like real social commentary, and instead it wound up just being another X-Men clone. I mean, down to the characters with different Black accents, to the point where you could barely understand some of them, and it was just kind of that Chris Claremonty kind of thing that really irritated me about his run on the X-Men. Uh, Now I loved Black AF, America's Sweetheart. Uh, that was an awesome one shot. But everything else in that whole series, I didn't care for. I mean, that was an excellent take on the Superman mythos, but it was the only book that I saw. I wonder if I have a copy of that. I don't think I do, and I probably should get one if I can find one. I mean, that would be a good one to have. I think did I buy an online copy of that, or did I actually buy the book? I wonder if I have that on Kindle. Let me see for a minute. Amazon.com. Oh, goodness. I mean, sometimes I don't know where I have some of these things. I mean, the one comic I know I have on Kindle is Adam Legend of the Blue Marvel. And I know I have that because I can't find that freaking book for anything less than like a freaking $300. That is the one book I need to complete my Marvel collection. And I cannot, they won't reprint it. I don't know why. Maybe it has the N word in it. There it is, Black America's Sweetheart. So yeah, that one I bought on that one I have on ebook. So at least I've got it in that format. Sometimes I tell you, I don't even know what I have. I've been collecting comics since I was 8 or 9 years old, and there are times when I just can't even remember what it is that I bought and what I didn't buy. I have a whole freaking room full of comics that I just sometimes I just don't know what's in there. And I even took the time to organize them. When the pandemic hit, I took a year off of work um because I was kind of burned out at the time. And I just basically said I want to finish some projects. I want to clean my room. I want to do some ebooks. I wrote a couple of ebooks. And if you ever look at my I don't know if it's on my YouTube page or something, but yeah, if you look at any of my YouTube descriptions, you can get a link to my books on Amazon and my books elsewhere. All of the books that I've done are on Amazon, because I've got a couple of Amazon exclusives out there. Three of them have been top 30 books, by the way. So I managed to at least achieve that as far as Amazon rankings goes. Top 30 in their categories, of course, but let's see. A pandemic hit. Okay, so Shadowpunk says let's see, except my book Shadowpunk 100%. Most modern comics are derivative of something except my book Shadowpunk 100% original idea down to the atomic level. And then Shadowpunk says, a pandemic hit? I must have missed that one. Oh, well, then you missed a hell of an investment opportunity. That's kind of how I got my retirement funds back. Let's see. The All-Seeing Ian. I tried Absolute, though almost out on that. What was Absolute? Absolute. I don't know what that is. That was one of the Image brands or something. But yeah, I mean, when the pandemic hit, I was let go from a contract about 2 months early, and then I was offered a job somewhere where I could have been full time, and I was just like, I can't. I need to take some time off. And so I took about a year off, and one of the things that I did was I arranged my comics because my comics were just a mess. And so I managed to label them all, get them all, bagged, not boarded. I probably should board them at some point, and put them all together in logical groupings. And then I also wrote a couple of ebooks, and those are the ones that I've got as my 2 Amazon exclusives. I got one called Try to Blend In, and that is a collection of my old tweets that I thought were particularly funny. So I've got about 1,000 tweets collected in one book. And it's been a while since I ran a sale on those, so I should probably do that again. The other book is called Thoughts Along the Way, and it deals with the blog posts that I made like over 20 years. And so it's got like 20 years of my writing on politics, religion, other things to do with life, the universe, and everything. Songs that I'd written and other stuff. So those are a couple of things that are out there. I've got 2 other books that are religious themed. They're against the Jehovah's Witnesses, basically showing how Jehovah's Witnesses like to cherry pick certain things to support their views that don't hold up under scrutiny. There's my book, The Cultural Bill of Rights. That one is the one that I wrote, offering 12 amendments to help America stay America. You can see the nice Amazon reviews calling me a white supremacist, of course, because, anybody who has any regard for the founding fathers of America at all is considered a white supremacist. And what was the other? Did I have? I've got a couple of small books, or I've got at least one small book called two small books called one's called Road Rage, and the other is called Be Still, Sweet Morsels. Those are actually a couple of short stories that I wrote and I published as standalone books. I don't think they're on Amazon. You have to go to one of my other Smashwords or one of the other places to download those. That's one of the things that I need to do is I need to I enter some writing contests periodically throughout the year that deal with flash fiction, and flash fiction is like anything like 3,000 words or less. Um, Actually, it's usually more like, yeah, 1,000 words or less. But one of the categories in the company that I compete on, they do 3,000 words or less, and I've got about how many stories do I have written now? I have collected. Whoops. I swear, ever since I got Windows 11, I'm having to cycle between OneDrive and my story or and my hard drive, and I've got 34 stories now. Yeah, 34 stories that once I hit 100, I'm thinking I'm going to collect all of those into a book and publish that as a collection of short stories. So I don't know how long that's going to be, though. It kind of depends on how well my writing improves, because they only have 5 contests during the year that I actually sign up for, and I write a story for each round of the contest. And if the story succeeds and moves me on to the next round, then I write another story. So the number of stories is going to depend on how well I do with my stories. Now, I think I did okay with this last one that I just turned in. So I'm hoping that for the short story round, I'm going to be required to write another. But who knows? I mean, I actually made a reference. Sometimes the quality of these judges leaves a little to be desired, because they're constantly saying things like, "I would have liked to have seen a little more developed about this." And I'm thinking, you do realize I'm on a 500 word limit, right? I only have 250 words in this for this whole story, and I can only write that much, and you're wanting to see a whole sub theme developed. I don't think you understand what kind of contest this is that you're judging. Then there was the one where I made a reference to Oliver Twist, and apparently the judge had never read that book before, and so I can't help it if there's people out there who are have some level of literary ignorance to them. I know I can't, I shouldn't assume that everybody understands the "please, sir, may I have some more" reference from Oliver Twist, but um, it's kind of standard, I thought. At least it was in my day, because they had the musical called Oliver. That was, um, it was a popular movie at the time, musical movie on Oliver Twist, and that scene was like known to everybody. Oh, what do we got here? Shadowpunk says, "I do have to say those all cap comics hats look very high quality." Yeah, I guess. I mean, I I don't have that many caps, really. I mean, I've got a few that I bought and a few that I've been handed. Sometimes I bought some that were like part of a package deal. So I got about 2 or 3 Comicsgate hats. I got one Rippaverse cap. I got one from Gab. I got one from Choctaw Casino. I got one for the Dallas Cowboys, and one for Styx Hexenhammer. But yeah, I mean, I've got a few of those, and it's generally for the days where where bedhead reigns supreme, basically. Let's see here. DC Absolute Batman. Oh, the that is the new uh, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman trinity of titles that has just recently come out. I like the Superman and Wonder Woman ones more than I like the Batman one. Uh, the Superman one is probably the best. The Wonder Woman one, I kind of like that one. I'm very tempted by those. in the sense that, I've been skimming them, but I haven't really been, paying that much attention to them. I don't, yeah, it's just the thought of getting into another universe, though. I mean, I don't know. We're doing, how or why did you get kicked from Twitter? Long story. Basically, I got into an argument with people that started generating millions of views on a topic that, they didn't appreciate very much. Uh, kind of like the, what was it? The something related, but not quite the same as the, uh, controversy over the comic books that, USAID was funding. Um, nah, actually, it didn't really have anything to do with that. It was, well, the problem is that when I asked Twitter what it was that I was getting kicked for, they did suspend me over a particular post, and I appealed, and then and then instead of them granting my appeal, I got kicked off permanently. But I don't know if I got kicked off permanently on account of that post that I had made, because there were other rules that they could have perceived me to have been breaking at the time. Because at the time that I got kicked off of Twitter, I had about 4 different Twitter accounts that were all hooked up to the same phone number, and they basically destroyed every account that was linked to that phone number. They just wiped them out entirely. And uh, I didn't have those on there because I was trying to get around their suspensions, but they might have perceived me as trying to do that. So that could be the reason that they kicked me. It's possible. But each time I asked them to provide the reason and tell me what post it is and tell me what policy I offended against, all they would do is send me back a form letter saying, we have the right to kick anybody we want, and you're never getting your account back. I mean, it literally said that. and and this was in the post Elon Musk period. So I was like, wait a minute, can I like bring legal action or something? And of course, the moment I threatened that, they just deleted my accounts altogether. So I don't know really technically what I was kicked for. I know what started it all off, but I don't know if what started it all off is the end reason. And so I'm kind of hesitant to like ascribe anything to myself on that reason. Suffice it to say, I saw somebody who was being mistreated by a lot of people on social media. I came to that person's defense. My efforts were not appreciated by people at large, and I just and then in a side conversation that I had with one person who was particularly snippy, I got cited for something that I said in that particular side conversation. Whether or not that thing that I said was the reason or not, I don't know. And let me tell you, I got suspensions on Twitter for some of the dumbest things back in the day. I mean, one of the things that I actually got suspended for, I got a 7-day suspension for this. Get this. I got a 7-day suspension because when I saw a post that was asking, if I were to break into your house and steal the thing next to you, what would I get? And I replied, shot. And of course I'm joking, because the thing itself is a joke, it's just it's one of those annoying questions. So I just basically said shot. That's what you get. And I got suspended for 7 days for that. So it's like, what the hell? Okay, am I back? Am I back now? I don't know what happened there. Can everybody see me and hear me now? I'm back. Okay. Yeah. What happened? I think Twitter was listening. Either that or YouTube was listening. It's like, he said what? Wow. That's, yeah. Oh my God. Uh, let's see what else did I say in there? Okay, I'm just catching up because I all of a sudden it completely froze on my part, and then it just my Internet Explorer just said, your page is having a problem. So I did a refresh and I hit the reconnect button, and then it seems like it's good now. But that's kind of funny, Skynet hit you hard, says Shadowpunk. So yeah, and the funny thing is how little I actually miss it as far as being kicked off of social media goes. As much as I used it back in the day, I thought I was going to have a fit. I thought I was going to have a literal conniption fit, when it hasn't really affected me any. I mean, the only thing that I regret is that when I see conversations between like Eric July and Ethan Van Sciver, or Ethan and some of the other people, or there's things that I'd like to reply to and I can't, and because I can still log on to Twitter and see what people are posting for the most part. But it is a time sink, and I can't say that being on social media like that turns you into the best of persons. It's really a place where the dark side of your personality can come out, because everybody's sniping at you and you get snippy and start sniping back at people. And it's a really good way to start feuds and beefs and other things that you just kind of better off without. I mean, anytime things turn to like religion, politics, the important topics you find important, and you find out what other people think, and it's just like, oh my God, I can't believe that person thinks that. It doesn't go well. And so I don't know. I almost feel like it was a lot easier to have friends back in the day before social media, because you never really knew what your friends thought about anything unless you actually asked them. So whatever you had in common with your friends, I mean, that is what united you. And so you just assumed that you had everything else in common as well. Because you never had to really get intimate with your friends in terms of what their thoughts were about this or that political issue, or how the world was going in one way or another. You might make a remark, but you didn't really have to know what your friends thought. Now it's like, blorp, here's what I think about this issue. Blorp, here's what I think about that issue. And it's like, oh, well, I had no idea that you thought those ways, and I think totally different. So why don't we have an argument now? So I think things were maybe a little bit better back in the day, when we didn't reveal so much of ourselves and just basically kept to ourselves our opinions for the most part. But now that people are just blorping out their thoughts left and right, it's up to people who disagree to blorp back in the other direction and say, hey, I'm at least going to challenge that with another opinion, because I don't want to make it look like that is the only acceptable opinion a person can have. So, can't you make a new account with a different phone number? Probably so, but I don't want to, because what I'd prefer to do is wait until I have a business, and then I will have a business phone, and I will use the business phone for my business and have the business be my Twitter account. And then kind of like when Ethan Van Sciver's account was suspended for a while, and he created the All Caps Comics company, and it was obviously him posting under that, but he could get away with it because it was a business account. I just figure may as well save a phone for one of those, just basically wait until I have a business, and then you use the Twitter account for that. Because really the advantage of being on Twitter is its marketing ability. I don't really need to have it just to have social media commentary back. I really don't. For that, I can just go to Truth Social if I really wanted to, or I could just, get more active on Gab. It's just that Gab doesn't have exactly a greater quality of people over there, because that's where all the neo-Nazis and actual racists went to, because they can definitely speak freely there. But I almost tell you, it's like I would think that the government really ought to make sure that all of its services are duplicated on Gab, because that's where all the people who have been sent into social media exile, who might need government services still, have to go. I'd probably do an executive order like Trump and say, everything that's replicated on, or every service that we have on Twitter, every public service has to be, accessible through Gab as well. Oh, goodness. So, did I leave anything out? I think at one point I could not understand why Eric July would price his mass market copies of YAIRA #2 and Great War of Separation as a lower price than what they are. That why not just make them equal in price to the other copies? As far as everything else, Schism. Don't forget Schism, and that is Jim Shooter's collection from Defiant Comics back in the day. That was going to wrap up the first major meta story arc from that company. I will put as soon as I get this thing saved, I will put the link to the Kickstarter campaign in the description so that anybody who wants to back that can back it. They are halfway towards their goal. They have 22 days left. And we have met our goal for the YAIRA #2 review. So I will be purchasing the copies of that shortly. And beyond that, I think I'm going to go ahead and kick off because I'm going to be on BTM reviews later tonight. So if you don't have anything you're doing this evening, go ahead and join us there. Let's see. Contrasting those two companies or writers is basically comparing to Dan Abnett. He's a Black Library author who wrote Annihilation War. Both Ethan and Eric are shitty writers. I don't think Ethan's a shitty writer. In fact, I've got a video on my channel saying what makes Ethan Van Sciver a good writer. So go take a look at that. I mean, basically, he's capable of connecting with you emotionally on, moments that will keep you coming back for more moments like that. With Eric, I don't think he's unrefined, but I still think he probably has potential. It's just that he's got a way with words that it's the wrong way with words. And there are little things that he just very easily misses and tries to overcomplicate, like instead of saying now, saying earlier that day, or forgetting to use his villain's last name in throughout the entirety of ISOM #1. It's not like, I mean, and honestly, when he wrote Santuan, and I was like, that was actually his dialogue for Santuan during the fight with him and Avery in the final fight, where he was saying something to the effect of, they call us all excepts, but that implies that we all come from the same source and have the same rating, and we are not the same, and blah blah blah. And I was thinking, I'm not sure I really understood any of that, but it's interesting enough that I'll go ahead and I'll buy this book to see what the rest of it is like. And that was kind of my because he did not give a lettered preview on ISOM #1, and so without that, I was not going to buy the book. I needed to see how part of the book at least was written, because I know that there are people out there who, it doesn't matter how good the art looks if the book's written like crap. And so when I saw that, I was like, I'm curious enough now that I'm willing to fork over what's necessary to buy this book. And for the most part, there were some things. I mean, there were some things in ISOM #1 that I just thought was, like, okay, well, this scene's a little bit cringe because he's talking in front of his niece about her father's death, and it's like, do you not understand who you're holding in your arms right there? Maybe you want to table that discussion until she's in bed. Little things like that, and some choices that he made along the way, but there was still a lot of potential there. It wasn't until ISOM #2 that I was just like, I think he needs help with this. Oh my goodness. Cecil Reese says, hit the like button. Um, yeah, go ahead. I don't I actually have not been that is something that I guess markets the live stream out to more people or something. I mean, at this point in the game, I'm about ready to turn in and save my voice for tonight. But uh yeah, the like, subscribe, donate when donations are asked. uh, but right now, I think we're cool as far as donations go. I don't think there's anything out there that I'm going to push for as far as that goes. Give you all a break. But thanks so much to everyone who did donate for YAIRA #2, and I will make sure to pick up those copies as soon as I get off the live stream. That's enough for me for today until, well, at least until later tonight when it's movie watching time. Don't forget, BTM Reviews is going to be holding a show tonight, so go over there when you get the chance. See, Rezic77, you have to remember Eric published the first draft. First draft of what? ISOM #2? Um, ISOM #2 or ISOM #1? Oh, ISOM #2. I guess. I mean, there was what was it that I was thinking of? What draft got I was thinking of Core Draft The Reckoning, the one comic that right now enjoys the disqualified mark on my scoring roster because they actually printed one double page spread with two versions of the same dialogue box on the page, or two versions of the same caption box on the double page spread. It was like, freaking seriously, this is insultingly bad. Your editing job is just insulting at this point. You didn't realize that you had printed the same caption box twice. Oh my god. Oh, so all right. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and close the live stream. And remember, BTM reviews tonight. Will I review PTP Zorro? No, that seems like enough of a Hindenburg level disaster that I don't really need to go through that. There's nothing I can do to help that book. I have yeah, that's like, will you grade my crayon drawing? I mean, that's pretty much the equivalent from what I saw. that that was pretty bad, especially the part where I think it was it your boy Zach who was doing his review of that, and he was saying it's like every time the demon's voice would speak up, he'd be like, "You again?" I'm like, I don't think I need. There's some things that are just a lost cause from the beginning, and there's not much point. So thanks again to everybody, and BTM reviews later tonight, and I will talk to y'all later. How about SGM? Certain? Nah, no Zorro stuff for me. I just don't really have the interest to that. I kind of try to stay on the independent publishing side as opposed to, and I don't know, maybe Sean Gordon Murphy's thing was crowdfunded. I don't actually know if that's the case or if he published that through Image Comics or one of the other places. But it Zorro has never been my cup of tea, so I just it'd be interesting to do one day. It's like I keep wanting to break off of this live stream, but I keep thinking of other things. I was watching the other day on Billy Tucci's channel, the pop, what is it called? What is it called? Hold on a minute. It's one of the channels that I have subscribed to on YouTube, and it is called Pop XP Network. That's a channel that features Billy Tucci and some others, and they occasionally do interviews with creators and stuff. And they took a tour. I highly recommend watching this because it's really impressive. Brian Pulido, who did Chaos Comics, Evil Ernie, Lady Death, and is still doing Lady Death stuff. He actually has a warehouse and distribution center, and it's basically the Chaos Comics headquarters out in Arizona. And I tell you what, if if I ever go to Arizona again, I think I will schedule myself a walking tour of his facility because it is really, really impressive. It is both a workspace and a testament to his success over the years. And one of the things that I always was kind of interested in seeing was the large scope of his work from Evil Ernie all the way on through the Armageddon series that I think wrapped up uh, the Chaos universe. I don't know how many books I'd have to read in order to get through all that though, so it's kind of it feels kind of prohibitive to go into that because I know he expanded that out in a whole bunch of ways. But I'll have to go and see if online somewhere there is a compendium of all of the Chaos Comics stuff that he did in the past, starting with Evil Ernie, Youth Gone Wild, and extending all the way through Chaos Comics Armageddon. Because I think that would probably be a really interesting ride to take through the entirety of a comic book company's life cycle and see what results out of that. But I just thought I'd bring that up. If you look at the Pop XP Network channel, the tour of his facility, it's really very impressive. Uh, and Becky Xavier says, "I'd rather deal with Lady Death than YAIRA." It depends now because now you got to talk about what version of Lady Death are you talking about. There was I know one of the things that happened is like he still retained the Lady Death property and he's basically done multiple versions of Lady Death since I think he lost some of his other properties in bankruptcy. So whatever the case may be, there's not really a solid continuity that I know of that goes through his titles anymore. Um, but yeah, all right, I gotta go. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks and bye.